Good morning. I want to talk about good news, but I want to do it a little bit more specifically for today, okay? So can somebody take a tally for me as we go through this a little bit, if you don't mind? So for those of you who have been calling your sphere of influence, calling your Hot 100, I want everybody to tell me how many referrals they've gotten. Just doesn't have to be a lead. We're going to count those in a minute. But how many referrals have you gotten? How many have you gotten, Wanda? Have you called any? Gotten any? Pam? No? Three. Will somebody keep track? I want to add this up. 3? How about how many have you gotten? 2.
I was very excited about that.
Good. How many have you gotten? Have you called anybody? Gotten any referrals?
I have not.
Okay. Alina? No?
I received
3.
Wow. That's so awesome.
How many did you get any?
No.
Okay.
2.
2. Jonathan?
1.
1. Okay. How many?
11.
11.
Oh, I mean 11 for everybody.
Total. No, for everybody. For everybody. No, 11. Okay. How many of those, did anybody have any that has already turned into a prospect, already turned into somebody they're working with? Out of those 11. Anybody?
Mine is.
Jonathan? Anybody else?
Yeah, mine will be.
Okay. 2. Think about that. And we had how many people that haven't done it? 1, 2, 3, 4. So out of what, 7 people? We've gotten 11 referrals and 2 deals just of these people in this room. Think about that. So for those of you who haven't been making those calls, good morning. For those of you who haven't been making those calls, does that help you say, yes, I want to make those calls? That's pretty phenomenal. And that's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is only a third of you. Based on the calls that, the individual calls, I have so far counted 5 deals that you guys are working on that have come from just you guys picking up the phone and having conversations with your Hot 100 and your sphere of influence. How cool is that?
I figured out who they are yet.
Whole nother topic, Wanda.
Well, I'm just still working on IQ Office.
Okay.
You know, that's,
Okay.
that's the issue.
Okay. So let's just have some balance between getting them somewhere
Right.
and calling them
Right.
and getting them into IQ Office, because
It's me.
that's huge. I mean, think about that, guys. Let's assume there's a $500,000 average price. We're talking about, so far that I know of, $2.5 million of production just out of this group from just calling their Hot 100. Right? That's huge. So I want to brag on somebody. Isn't that awesome? Now, here's what's so awesome about it. Now, there's still some opportunity, but here's what's awesome about it. This person didn't use Outlook before this. They didn't know how to color code anything. They didn't even have, this was way completely a different thing for them.
Yes.
Wanda.
Thank God for Nikki.
And-
love Nikki.
How awesome is this?
Yeah, it's great.
Isn't this just beautiful? Now, we've still got some things that we want to get more specific on. But guys, look at that. What color is her income producing activity? You can tell from there, can't you? Green.
And do you see what I named it? Actually, I don't know why I didn't go through with the same name. It's called Calls.
Yeah, it's calls and it,
Not the P word.
yeah.
Makes me really happy when I just see calls.
Calls. And you know what else? There's sometimes people will put calls, sometimes people will put reaches.
Right.
Because they're focusing on what they want to have happen, right? And so there's still some opportunity, like for your calls, during your planning time, it would be great for you to have in there the group of people that you're going to be reaching out to, or specific people you're going to reach out to. But now that she has this, if she needs to follow up with somebody in a particular date, she can go to that date where she's got calls and put into the notes the name and phone number of that person and call them. Do you think she's ever going to forget at this point?
Actually, I'm going back to IQ Office and putting it in there with a reminder.
Yeah, which is fine, but this is the purpose of this, guys. If she just follows this and she stays true to this, she's going to have 8 hours of prospecting time a week. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. She's got her ramp down time. Still need to work on some ramp up time, okay, because we don't have that in there. Okay, okay. So give me some additional good news about schedule. Somebody tell me what they've got, good news. What's working, what's not?
I'm doing more getting ready to close down part. What do you call that?
Ramp down. Yeah, no, good, good. And how is that helping?
It's helping get more focused on the next day so you don't worry about it that night. You know, so that helps a lot.
Perfect. Anybody else have any other things that are working well? Specifically around calendar, but any other good news?
Well, I did, one day do physical calls, and I got an awesome listing over on Key Colony Beach. A full duplex, and we're gonna list each half.
Wow. Because you did what your schedule said to do.
I had role play that day, and I was doing FISBOs, and I've been, and there's not many out there, but I got one. And I love
Wow.
that because it's you know whose territory.
Yeah, and how long did that take you? How hard was that?
Well, he'd been out there since January, and no one had called him.
Wow.
He was ready.
So
Is that crazy?
you did your role play, and then you did your calls like you're supposed to do on your calendar, and now you've got basically 2 listings, or how, I don't know if it'll be 2 or 1, I don't know how, but
They're rented right now, so I can't get pictures.
that's amazing. So if we take $2.5 million and we add, what's the price going to be on those 2?
It's $745 and 1399.
So another $2 million.
So another, yeah.
Well, actually, the
Two-
whole thing is 113.
Okay.
Oh, 1.3. Okay, so 2.5. So we're almost at 4 million. Just because we've done things that we would not normally have done. I love it, guys. That's fantastic. Awesome. I want to take a minute about ramp up time, because I probably had a conversation about ramp up time with most people. Am I right? So those people that I had the conversation with, are you now ramping up?
So I haven't done it every day, but the days that I have done it, I've noticed that I'm actually like ahead of my schedule, it seems like. And so when I was doing it, I was thinking about that multiplying your time, and how when I stuck to that schedule, it kind of felt like I was multiplying my time. I thought that it was later in the day, and I looked at the clock and I had got all these things done, and it was still pretty early, so I was like, wow.
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. That's amazing. So now, are you more committed to ramping up?
Yeah, but this week obviously has been interesting with
We were just talking.
Well, and here's the thing I want you guys to think about, okay? Because these things are not habit for you yet, which is why we want the calendar. So here's my question to you. Do you have ramp up time in your calendar?
I do.
Okay, good. So you're not as likely to forget it. But we've got to have, there's this thing that we want to keep in our mind, because a lot of times when something derails us, we just sort of give up, don't we? Sometimes by February 1st, we've given up on the year, haven't we? Really? Sometimes by the 10th of the month, we've given up on the month, right? Sometimes by 10 o'clock, we've given up on the day. And so it really is this mindset that you have to have, and your calendar can really help you. So don't give up. Don't give up on the hour even. Don't give up on the day, right? You can always go back. If you forget to ramp up in the morning, there's nothing that says you can't decide, okay, I'm going to stop what I'm doing, and I'm going to get my act together. I'm going to do my ramp up for the rest of the day. I'm going to call it, I'm drawing a line in the sand, and I'm going to stop, and I'm going to do it, okay? So good. So anybody else ramping up now that wasn't?
Yes,
Yeah, making a difference?
it's crucial.
Yeah.
I just know that then I can set who I'm gonna call if I haven't done it the night before. It gives me, it makes my schedule a little later, but it still works.
It's amazing, right? It doesn't cost you any time. That half an hour that you spend ramping up, it doesn't cost you any time, which tells you something, doesn't it? It tells you how much time we're losing figuring out what we're going to do next. I love it. I love it. Oh,
The ramp down is actually more important for me
okay.
than the ramp up.
Okay.
The ramp up is not, I don't know, I know because the night before, it's kind of the same thing in the morning. It's just a carryover. So I just know my ramp down is my ramp up in the morning.
Okay, whatever works for you, right? But the concept really is we've got to build that into our calendar because we are going to feel like we are more proactive. We are getting so much more done than we ever thought we could get done in a day.
And I don't feel as rushed, like, oh my God, I was supposed to just go from this to this.
Yes.
I have time to get my thoughts sorted and get the mindset right.
Absolutely. For those of you who I talked to about it, it's like that first student, right, compared to the second student. It just makes all the difference in the world. I love it. I love it. Okay, so what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about creating systems. Now, one of the reasons I spent a little bit more time talking about the good news is because a lot of what we're going to do today is going to draw on the other past 3 weeks. Okay, so I want everybody to think back, and for those of you who did the branding exercise, I want you to remember some of those words that people have said. If you didn't do that exercise, I want you to give some thought to what your brand is. And what I mean by that is, what do people think of you working with you consistently? Okay, either what do they think or what do you want them to think? And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because most people go about creating systems, my humble opinion, completely backwards. Okay? Most people say, okay, I need a system, so I'm going to start with figuring out, okay, I'm going to call them every other week, and I'm going to do it on Tuesdays, and I'm going to put it in my calendar. Right? I mean, that's what some people have as a system. Am I right? And what I'm suggesting to you is, no, that while that might be a system, we haven't even decided if that's going to get us to the goal that we want. All we've done is we've set some arbitrary thing in place that we think is going to work. And if we are not committed to something, if we don't know if it's serving our purpose, how committed are we? How committed to continuing to do that will we be? Right? So I want to start, step one, is I want you to be thinking, what experience do you want that person to have? Okay? What experience do you want that person to have? And we're going to go through this process for each system that you create. What experience do I want them to have? The second question then becomes, what are some proof points? What are things that I can do that are going to prove to them this experience, that will have them have this feeling that you'd like for them to feel, or experience what it is that you want them to experience? Everybody with me? Okay? Then, and only then, do you think, how can I make that happen? Because you see, if we start with the how, we've already started compromising what it is we want to have happen. How many times when we're thinking about it, we say, well, I'm just going to call everybody every 2 weeks. I know actually some of these people, I wish it was a week, but I just don't see how I can make that happen. So I'm just going to set it up for 2 weeks. Right? We're thinking about the how, and so we're automatically compromising what it is that we want to have happen. Okay? So we don't want to compromise until we know what our goal is, what we would like to happen, what would be ideal. Then we'll start to figure out the how. And it's then, if we want to make some compromises, we can, but we're going to do it in service to our goal. Everybody with me? Okay? So let's talk about the systems. Now I'm going to go through, in my opinion, there are about 7 systems that you need to have. And we're going to go through each one of these systems. For some of you, there's no way you're going to create all 7 systems. You're just not. You're not at the place that you want to do that. And so I'm just going to encourage you to pick 1 or 2. There are others of you that may have some systems for some of these. And so I would say if you've got some systems, let's figure out which ones you want to create. Some of you are going to need to start at the end of these systems. Some of you need to start at the beginning, and you'll see when I go through these which ones those need to be for each of you. Okay? But I want you to keep in mind, if you're new, you're probably going to have to start at the top. For those of you who've been around a while, it really might make much more sense for you to start at the bottom and work your way up. Okay? So as we go through in each of these systems, I want you guys, this is going to be very much a working time for us. I want you guys to identify for the system. Even if you're not going to create the system, I still want you to write down the experience you want them to have, what the ideal would be for each one of these systems, because then you can go back later and fill in the blanks. Is that making sense to everybody? Okay, so let's talk about the first system. First system is calling referrals. And I very purposefully am being very specific here, calling referrals. Now, I will share with you the experience I want someone to have when I am calling a referral is I want to make them smile. Period, end of story. I want the person on the other end of the phone, when I call them, I want to make them smile. Okay? Now, why is that important? Think about what that has to do for me, to think about it. If my goal is to make them smile, I got to have some ammunition, right? Because I can't just pick up the phone and not know and not have a plan on how I'm going to make that happen. Okay? So part of my process for calling referrals is making sure I get good pre-approach, right? So when I get a referral, I know if my goal is to call them and make them smile, I better be armed. I need to get my ammunition. Okay? Now, I also want to make sure that I'm leading them into the next step of the sales process. Okay? So I am going to then, I have a system. When I get referrals, I usually get them on paper or email, but mostly paper. When I get those, I send that sheet of paper, I take a picture and I send it to my assistant. She puts it into the system and she has a specific way of coding it in my CRM. Okay? Now, what I do then is I dial from that piece of paper and then I'm looking them up in the CRM. That's my balance to make sure she did what I wanted her to do to make sure they're in the system, right? And then I start keeping my notes and setting my date of next contact, okay? Once I've called and verified everybody on that piece of paper, I throw the paper away, right? Pretty simple system. It's not very complicated, but it works, right? So you see, this is a very super simple process that you can implement. But if I didn't have that goal of wanting to make them smile, for me, this turns into drudgery. This turns into just, oh my God, I've got to dial. And I would lose track if I didn't have a system for how they were going to get into my CRM. Or I would end up with 100 million pieces of paper throughout the course of the year that I would just not know what to do with, right?
So I'm thinking about the coding of this, okay?
Mhm.
So you went and saw the people at the condo, okay? Let's just say the condo. And you got 5 names,
Yes.
okay? So those 5 names, you put them in, you have your piece of paper, you scanned it, sent it to your assistant. So she's putting it in, and where does it say, where did I get this referral? Where did I get, how
So
do you put that in there?
I have, the way that I code it, I put in there in 2 places.
Okay.
So there is, first off, a place for you to put in the CRM, referred by. That's kind of a standard field in a lot of CRMs. You can put who they were referred by.
Don't get me started.
I know. But I put it in a second place, and I'll tell you why I do that. Because in my CRM, I don't necessarily see that screen of who it was referred by. So when I look it up, I have it on my piece of paper, and when I call them in the CRM, then I put it in the notes. Because I can see the past few notes. And so I always have it in my very first note, referred by so-and-so. And in my notes, I will put referred by Melissa Knoll at CBSRE. Because there are times when I've put referred by, Eddie Graham, and I'm like, who the heck is Eddie Graham? Like, I don't remember meeting Eddie Graham. But that's when I'll go in my notes and I'll say, oh yeah, This is
And Graham caught a lobster.
exactly. Like I randomly met him at wherever, right? But that's where I put it in the notes. Because that's where I'm going to be dialing from. If I don't reach this person today, I'm not gonna have that piece of paper anymore,
Right.
but it's gonna be in my notes. But I don't need to take extra time and take another step. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, because,
Yeah.
you know, you can't just say that and that referred by.
Nope.
You have to.
Nope, you got to put it somewhere. And for me, the way I have a quick screen on my CRM, so when I click on their name, I can click notes and I can see the past like 5 or 6 notes. So I literally am dialing them before I pull up the notes because I want to dial as quickly as I can.
Right.
But I don't worry about it because I know the notes are going to be there. Like I don't have to worry that I'm not going to find the information because it's right there.
Now, what if your computer doesn't give them up before you get off the phone? Get on the phone.
That never happened. Okay.
Okay.
Does that help?
What program do you use?
I use Infusionsoft, but that's just, you know, what Southwestern uses, and so it works really well. But anyway, okay. Questions. Everybody kind of understanding the process we're going to go through here, and this one's very basic. This is the most simple of ones. Now, leads. It's a lot harder, isn't it? But I want you to start with, what experience do you want a lead to have? Remember, they're not a prospect yet, right? We have no idea. These are just leads. What experience do you want them to have?
Well, you want them to want you.
Everybody's answer is going to be a little different, though, right? Think about your branding, right? For some of you, that branding is, part of that branding is being professional. For some of you, it's knowledgeable is a big piece. For some of you, it's just, I want them to know I care, right? I want you to think how those 3 words might have you create a little bit of a different system, right? Think about it.
Well, isn't a referral a buyer or seller lead actually?
No. No. A referral is a name and number of someone you can introduce yourself to and potentially be a resource. They may or may not want you right now. They may not be a lead right now. They could end up being another potentially phenomenal referral partner, but they may not be a lead right now. And that's where I think a lot of people have gotten really stuck on calling their Hot 100 because they're thinking they have to ask for, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate? We know most of the time when they look at you like you have 3 eyes, it's because they literally don't know anybody who's looking to buy or sell real estate. However, they do know that their cousin Mary, you know what, I think you should call her. I mean, I don't know that she's owned her house for 20 years, but you know what, reach out to her. I think she knows a lot of people, or, she might want to hear from you. You call Mary, and who knows, Mary could end up being your best referral partner ever. So Mary would be a referral, but she wouldn't necessarily be a lead. Okay? So a lead is somebody that you have heard, you have been led to believe, they either reach out to you or you have been told that they are looking to buy or sell. We don't know, they're just a lead. Okay? So I want you to think about that process. And I also want you to think about your business, because they are not prospects yet, this is a system that people have in perpetuity, right? And that is that the best use of your resources, depending on what that system is? Think about it. Most people, there's not an end to this. And I'm not saying that you're cutting people off, but there's not an end to the system. Which doesn't make any sense, does it? These people should not be in this category forever. That's my point. Okay? They're either in a time frame going to be a prospect, or they're just going to be back into your sphere of influence, right? But this is a very specific process. For me, when I have a lead, I have specific, like I know if I'm leaving a mystery message or if I know I'm leaving them like the whole kitchen sink, right? Because if I've left them 4 messages, they haven't called me back, then I'm going to call them and I'm going to leave them a message like what we call the kitchen sink. I'm just going to throw up all over them, tell them who I am, why I'm calling, what I want, and if you don't want to call me back, that's fine, but I'm not going to keep calling you. Now, doesn't mean I'm never going to call them, but I'm going to wait like a year before I call them back, right? But I don't keep them in this category forever. I don't need them on my calendar. I have other people. And here's the problem. If we spend so many times, you know why people get frustrated? They say, well, I've got so many leads I got to follow up on. No, you don't. No, you really don't. You have a bunch of people that are old leads, right? And you're wasting your time because you're more comfortable calling them than you are asking for referrals and calling your Hot 100. Or even FSBOs, right? Making sense?
Yeah, the IQ officer are called passive referrals, or passive leads. They're just looking still.
They're still, and that's fine. I mean, it doesn't mean, but do something that doesn't require your time. Set them up on a drip, whatever you need to do, but my God, quit spending so much time. Because it's just making you feel good. Right? How many times have you had somebody look, yeah, I just think I'm looking. What percentage of those people end up actually buying from you? Come on. I mean, it's low. And I'm not saying, I know we have a lot of people who come and visit and they buy in 3 years. I'm not saying we're not going to maintain that relationship, but they don't need to be in this category. They are not a lead. They tell you they're going to buy their retirement property in 3 years. They are not a lead right now. They aren't. Okay? Doesn't mean you're not going to stay in touch with them, but put them in the right bucket.
What's your time frame to move them from a lead into your sphere?
Here's the thing, it shouldn't be that long if you are asking questions.
Okay.
If you get them on the phone and you are asking the right questions, you know. You just know. Okay? And if you're not getting them on the phone, I think it's even shorter. Right? I mean, why bother? Why bother? If they're not taking your phone call now, what makes you think they're going to take it in 6 months? Really? Okay? Questions. Okay? So have an end. So has anybody written down any aha moments? What are you? Anybody thought about a system for this that they need to change or work on? I want to hear some things going through your head right now that might help some others.
Cards for hot leads, and then if that, I know it's gonna be 6 months or whatever, then they instantly go into the auto email or some kind of, and then get rid of the card.
Perfect.
And put a date to call them back.
Yeah.
In 6 months or whatever.
Have the date, you know you're gonna call them back, and then forget about it.
I got actually a buyer lead 3 days ago. They told me they were not gonna buy for a year. I said I would show them a couple of places, I would meet with them if they signed a buyer brokerage agreement, and if they hadn't, I wouldn't have met with them.
Yeah.
So I got one. And he said it's gonna be here, I'm telling you up front.
Yeah.
But you're our agent.
Yeah.
So,
Perfect.
but they're not gonna be in my leads anymore.
Nope, they're not going to be in your leads. You don't even think about them. They're going to show up in your calendar in 10 months or 11 months, and you're going to say, hey, when are you coming back in town? I want to get going again. What can I have ready for you? Whatever, right? Mm-hmm. We've got to get clear where we're spending our time. And this is one of these categories that people spend a lot of time because it makes them feel better. Because if we are salespeople, and if we didn't focus on things that were hopeful, we'd be in a mess, right? That's our tendency. Oh, maybe, right? But we can't keep them in this category very long, okay? So the next one is a listing presentation. How many of you, does anybody in here have a specific process for how they do listing presentations. Now, and I mean the entire process. I want you to think about it. Wanda, what's yours?
I follow my theory.
Okay, but I want you to, so here's the process. So when you set a listing appointment, let's just say you finish on the phone and you agree, you're going to do a listing appointment on Tuesday at 3 o'clock. What goes into your calendar besides Tuesday at 3 o'clock? What process do you have?
You prepare for it. You have to get your CMA, you have to get the listing package, whatever else.
And if I don't have time that day or they don't, I do a pre-qual, because otherwise it might not be worth your time to even go to the.
And so where's that going to go in your calendar, Wanda?
Where is it gonna go? You mean like what date?
So here's my point, right? When you know you've got a listing presentation, there are lots of things that you should have a system for doing. And most of the time, we just keep it in our head and we just know, oh, I got to make sure I'm prepared for this on Tuesday. Instead of saying, okay, well, tomorrow I'm going to take this time, because it's going to take me about 45 minutes to do the CMA. I'm going to do this, okay? And then on this day, I'm going to put my packet together, right? I'm going to send a text to remind them, or whatever your process is. And then you block off time for that follow-up, whatever you might need to do, right? That is a system.
Well, I have prep for listing is across this every day.
Perfect, because your
I might
goal
not be
is,
doing that
right.
way, but I have.
But in your ramp-up time, you know you've got time allocated and you can choose to do something else, and you've put that there because of the number of listings you have for your goal. You need to have that time allocated. Is that making sense in her ideal calendar? Everybody with me? But so many times, it's like when I go and do a training, I don't put a training in my calendar without putting time to prepare for the training. Because it's not like I can just show up and it's all done. I mean, it would be nice, but it doesn't happen, right? So you want to have that. And then think about it. Do you have specific emails that you want to go out before and after? Right? Create a template if you don't. Okay? If you have, do any of you have any campaigns, or have they created any campaigns in IQ Office for seller prospects?
I think there's some. Is there, Dwayne?
I don't know.
Where's Natalie when you need
I'm
her?
working with a lot of people that don't even have email, so forget about it. They're
That's
old.
strange.
But like that might be part of the
lady last
process.
night, I don't have an email, I don't have a computer. It's like, I'm happy.
Lord.
I'm happy.
It's gonna make dot loop kind of hard, isn't it?
No, just go to her house.
Yeah.
If she's local.
Yeah.
She is local.
But you see, if you set up your listing presentation, maybe one of the things you do is you have an automatic email that goes out, right? It starts with, what do you want people to experience, right? So again, I'm going to give you an example from me because it's just easier maybe for you guys, because I don't want it to be, I want you guys to think of ideas for yourself, right? If I call a manager and I set an appointment to go into their office and do a training, soon as I hang up that phone, okay, I'm going to tell you all the things that happen. First of all, I create an invite with a flyer for the date that we've agreed that I'm going to go into their office. I have set an appointment for my 1-hour phone call with him leading up to that, him or her, and I send an invite for that time. I send an invite for the time ahead of that meeting to make sure that they are going to be available to talk with me before the meeting starts, okay? I send a handwritten thank you note. I send a LinkedIn request to connect on LinkedIn, and there is a book that's ordered. Then in my CRM, I hit a button because there is a campaign that starts to send them a series of emails leading up to that meeting. Okay? Now all of this only takes a few minutes. But think about the message that that's sending and the experience I want them to have. Right? Okay? And just because that campaign is automated doesn't mean you guys can't have, whether it's in IQ Office or whether it's just draft, whatever it is you can do, you can put that into your calendar and send it out. Right? Do you know how many times they will respond to me over those emails or communicate to me in between? And I got to be honest with you, I don't really think about them a whole lot in between. But those things are happening because there's a system in place. Okay? Making sense? So hopefully everybody's creating some steps for themselves. Okay? Starting with how you want them, what experience you want them to have. Okay? Showings. I want you to think about it. What experience do you want them to have? So think about it. Your listing presentation and your showings are the same step in the sales process, is it not? It is the presentation step of the sales process. Okay? Do you just, somebody says, yeah, I want to see some properties, and you just block time? What are you doing? If you have a buyer packet, is it prepared? Do you have that? Is that part of what you're doing? Do you know what's in the buyer? I mean, some people want to have a buyer packet. Some people, it probably isn't even the same one time to the next, if we're being honest. Right? Do you meet them ahead of time? Right? And I know a lot of people are here on vacation, but you know what? People have calendars on vacation. And I tell you what, for some people, having that in their calendar and it shows up on their phone, that's a big deal. I know you guys have been stood up before. Oh my God, I completely forgot. Oh my God, I lost track of time. Oh my God, right? Maybe sending an invite isn't a bad idea. Do you do that? Right? Let's be honest, how many times have you gotten to there and you think you want to sign a you're convinced they're either not going to sign a buyer broker or you know you're going to chicken out and you're not going to ask, and so you don't even have one in your packet, but then you get there and you're like, oh man, if only I had one. I would have asked this time. I just know it. Right? And then after they finish looking at properties, do you just go home and they go to their place, and is that all that happens? What process do you have? How do you want them to feel? What experience do you want them to have? Do you know how many times I've heard people say, yeah, we went and looked at property and I spent 6 hours with these people. And then I went home. They didn't go home. They kept driving around looking at properties, and the next thing you know, they called a listing agent on a property on a house because you didn't show it to them. The next thing you know, that ends up being the house they want. They've talked to the listing agent about it. You didn't have a buyer broker. Right? Just because you were tired and went home doesn't mean they did. Right? If you're showing somebody property and they're on vacation, what system do you have for follow-up? A lot of people are right, and that's good. That's what I want.
Well, it just gave me an idea, because I didn't get those buyers' address, and I really want to get them on my newsletter list. And I know they're still here. I sent them a thank you text, because that's how we've been communicating. So I didn't get enough information from them.
Yeah. But if you know what your process is, aren't you more prepared? Right?
Yeah, and sometimes you ask enough questions, you know they're just trying to look at things with listing agents. You know, they only want to see what the listing agent, so don't waste your time trying to get them to be your buyer. It's not going to help.
It really is a matter of, it's just a little bit like your ramp up time when you know what you're going to do. right? You're not just kind of playing it by ear, and you are actually in the driver's seat. You know what information you need. You know what you need to do. You are in control of the experience they're going to have. Okay? Making sense? Okay? This is a big one. Now, for some of you, you don't have to worry too much about it because you have somebody else on your team helping you. But contract to close. How many of you in here are using something to manage your critical dates?
Well, thank God it's in our document.
Yeah.
Okay. So then let me ask you this. How are you using, tell me about the process that's creating for you.
Well, I put the reminders in on my calendar of critical dates, like this is the last date that this buyer can get out of it and not lose his.
Okay. When do you put that in your calendar?
As soon as it goes under contract.
As soon as it goes in. So there's a process, right? When you contract on something,
And I send it to them right away.
you send it, you get all of those things in your calendar. That is a process. Now, besides having those critical dates, what other things do you want to send to them during contract to close?
Lots of stuff.
It is. I mean,
It is a lot.
it is a lot, but I want you to be thinking about what do you want them to experience? What do you want them to feel? Right? Somebody in here, when they did the branding exercise, somebody told them the word was easy as pie, was the way that their experience with this. I don't remember who that was. Was it you? Yeah. I've never heard anybody tell somebody that. Easy as pie. So, but I want you to think about that. If you want everybody to have that experience, easy as pie, what do you need to do for them to feel like this was easy as pie? Right? Think about it. So it's something maybe as simple as a buyer the week before closing or whatever, they get that list of utility companies or whatever, right? And it's timed. I don't know. You know your business. You know what experience you want them to have. If you don't have templates, if you don't have a campaign, and you guys can do a campaign yourself in IQ Office. You can set up a series of things that you can send out, right? So if you have somebody that goes to contract, you can set up a campaign that this is a buyer under contract, right? You can set that campaign up so that they get this certain set of emails from you the minute they go under contract in a certain time frame, right? If they're a buyer, they get this set of emails. If they're a seller, they get this set of emails. That is communication from you that they think there's coming directly from you. But did you have to do anything? No. Okay? And it doesn't take that long to create that campaign. We talked about curating content, right? It'd be easy to find something that you can plug into that campaign that would be meaningful to them. Okay? In addition to whatever resources you're providing for them. Okay? Lots more people writing. It's exactly what I want you to do. I want you to think about what you want to do here. How is that going to play out? How are you going to prove your brand to them? You know, contract to close, if your brand really has a lot to do with, you know, caring, and I want them to, you know, understand how much it means, you know, how much they mean, right? It's more of an emotional feel. Do you have something at that after that inspection? What's a follow-up inspection if you're a buyer, right? Like that's the kind of stuff that would come to my mind, right? Because that happens in contract to close, and how often are we just finished the inspection, we go, thank God they didn't freak out over anything. But does that send the message that you want for your brand? I get it, but, right? And we've got these opportunities for these proof points that really don't take a lot of your time and energy. if they are planned, if they are part of the system. And then suddenly when you're asking them to sign a buyer broker, how much more confidence do you have in what they're going to experience from you as their agent when you know the system you have in place? Right? Even more people writing, that's good.
I did not know that IQ Office could do that.
Yeah, you can set up a campaign like that. You just have to.
I'm just curious, can I ask a question?
Of course.
about it? How can we look at what that campaign is? Does anybody know? It says there's a campaign for buyers or sellers. I wanna see what's going out, and that's why I haven't used it.
Okay.
Send it to yourself.
That's
Yeah.
how they,
Yeah.
Just hadn't even thought about that.
But if you wanna see it beforehand, I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah,
send it to yourself.
right.
Well, here's the thing. You only have to be one step ahead.
Did you like it?
So
Oh, see, so she didn't use it.
Yeah, it sounds like a robot, so it needs some tweaking.
Well, you can customize it, right?
Yeah.
That's what
You
have
can.
to do.
And think about it like Elaine said, so if you do send it to yourself, somebody was saying, well, you wanted to see the whole thing. No, you only have to be one step ahead. So as long as you see the first one, if you don't like it, go in and tweak it. You can have already sent it to people. Just know that when you see the second one, you know you need to get that tweaked before the next one goes out, right? Only have to be one step ahead, guys. Only have to be one step ahead.
No, you might as well take a look at the whole thing. See if you wanna just pitch it all.
Right.
Well, you can always cancel them from that campaign if you wanted to. You can do that too, if you start it. But I'm just saying, if for some reason you can't see the whole thing up front, if you do send it to yourself, that would be a way to do it.
Before they get it, send it to yourself.
You send it to yourself
Very-
first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times they don't send, you don't get a copy when it's going out.
No, you won't. Yeah, you've got to send it to yourself. I would definitely recommend any of these campaigns. So that's a good point. We should actually, well, no, because I get copies of all of the things that are sent out automatically. I'm CC'd, like I know when somebody gets something on my behalf, and I hate it.
Yeah, drives you crazy.
It clutters my inbox. It's way too much.
Yeah, okay.
Way too much. Now, if they reply to me, because I have a rule that all of those don't, I just delete those because I don't want to see them because there's just way too many. But if they reply to me, then I get that one.
Okay.
I get that one, and it's nice to see that they replied, and then I delete it. I don't need to, I don't need to keep it. Well, because most of the time their say is, oh, great article, or, oh, looking forward to it. Well, okay, whatever. I'm just going to delete that, right? But I know they're engaged, right?
Don't you wanna put that in your note about from them that they were engaged with this article, maybe?
Sometimes I will make a note because I have a running file, like so that one, the conversation where I set the appointment, the conversation that I have prior to them, I have a running document in my computer about them, and I bring that document with me when I go to them before the meeting, and I say, oh, I remember this and this and this we talked about, so they know, I look like I'm on point, and I just have some good systems.
And you've been waiting for correspondence for them every day.
Yeah. So, but it really is about systems. We have those. Even, I got to ask you a question. When you get that calendar from your insurance agent that you probably don't even use or you probably throw away, don't you still think, that was nice? Don't you? And you know darn well they didn't do it, but they had a system. Okay? So I want you to think about it. So think about this, even when it's, well, it'll be later. I'll tell this example in a minute. But, okay? Everybody with me? Has everybody at least written down 2 or 3 things in some of these systems that they're going to implement, that they know what they're going to do? Okay? All right. Closings. I made that this is a completely separate system. Who has a process for closing? All right. Who has a different process for closings? Anybody?
Mine's not fully, but yes, I have processes.
What's your
I go
process?
through. Well, it depends on the person, of course. Like, they're in-town people, perfect. So the process is your walkthrough, your follow-up with them about coming to the closing, what you need to bring to the closing, etc. Are you moved out that day? If not, let's get you moved out. And sometimes I send them a present, and then the follow-up afterwards. Did you get your money? Okay, good. You know, did you move in? Great.
So I love that you have an idea.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
It's not a system,
Right.
but you have some thoughts around what you want to have happen. So in her case, 24, 48 hours, she might have a template email that she sends out and says, I'm looking forward to the closing. There are a couple things to keep in mind. We're going to do your walkthrough at whatever time. You need to make sure that you're moved out by this and this time. You're going to get your keys here. Like just a, overview, right? 24 hours, it might be one saying, I'm looking forward to seeing you, whatever. Just a reminder to wire any money that you need to from the whatever, right? And then I'll see you on tomorrow at whatever time, right? And then you do the walkthrough, you do the closing. But in your calendar, maybe you have put in the calendar when you're going to buy a gift. Like when a closing is scheduled, if you buy gifts, you need to have in your calendar when you're going to buy the gift or who's going to buy the gift or whatever it is. Have it in your calendar. How many times do we wake up in the morning or you go, oh crap, their closing's tomorrow. I got to find something. I got to buy something.
Thank God the Dollar Tree store.
That's funny.
But I mean, we
Nice green wine glasses.
right. But we want to have those systems in place, right? We want to know. Do we have a packet of information we're taking to them at closing? What does it include? Does it include a sheet for you to ask for referrals? Does it include something for you to get a survey done? Is there a link that you can, think about this process.
I just got an email alert.
Did you?
buyer. It's really nice, actually.
Good. Good. That's nice. Okay. All right. Last system, post-closing. What are we doing post-closing? And when I mean post-closing, I mean from the time after you walk out of that attorney's office, that title agent's, for the next 12 months.
Wow. What if you know it's somebody that you just sold their home and they ain't ever, never coming back?
So,
No, but I mean, should we
So-
somehow stay in touch with them?
Why not? How many times have you known somebody to move away from here and then they decide they want to come back? And if you set it up right, we're talking about this post-closing, it's not going to take a lot of your time. It's going to be more systems.
plus I know people that still live here.
100, there's so many reasons.
I know.
They can provide you referrals. They might move back. They might know neighbor. There's so many different reasons. What is your post-closing process? Again, what is it that you want to have them experience? And I'm telling you, you can blow it here. You can have done easy as pie the whole way, right? And then they go to do their taxes and they can't figure out the paperwork that they need to do their taxes. Suddenly, it's maybe not as easy as pie as it was, right? Think about it. Right? Or professional, right? What would that look like for you to do follow-up? Do you know I had a guy that called me yesterday And he had not called me back the past 3 times. Now, I had already spoken to him, and he told me he wanted me to come in August to Minnesota. And he called me and left me a message yesterday. He goes, I just want to thank you. He goes, I know we are both in sales, and I appreciate your professionalism and your persistence, and I absolutely want you to come in. I just think because of the acquisition, I think October is going to be a better time. Would you please call me back in October? But thank you. My people need to learn the follow-up systems and the persistence that you've shown me. Right? That's what you want people. You want people to be able to have those thoughts about you as their agent, as their realtor, do you not? Mm-hmm. So what do you need to do to prove it? This guy's not even a client yet, right? He's in
That's
the,
a lead though, right?
it is a lead for me. It's a lead, right? But my voice, the reason he sent me back my voicemail is because I'm going to either move him out. And so my voicemail was, listen, I know we haven't been able to connect and you might have changed your mind about having me in. I would definitely still be interested in doing this. I don't know if this is just not the right time or you've changed your mind. But if you don't mind, please let me know, because I don't want to continue to call you if this is something that you are no longer interested in. And bam, he called me back and left me a voicemail. He was like, no, I'm still interested. I just want to do October. So now I know he's staying in my leads, right? But because we get scared, like had I not done that, I would have called him 5 more times before October. Probably. Now I'm not going to waste my time. Now I know when I'm supposed to call him. Right? This is me getting him out of leads. Making sense? So think about post-closing. How many of you don't have as many reviews as you would like online? Post-closing problem, guys. Post-closing problem. How many of you have found past clients that have bought or sold and didn't use you? Come on, guys. That's happened. Well, yeah. Post-closing problem, Alina. Post-closing problem.
3 of their properties listed, 1 under contract, the other one just fell through, and the 4th one they chose John L. Corey. Pissed me off.
Have you asked him why?
He said the pictures that I had when on previous listing, he did not like. I said, well, we can change that. That's not a problem. I have actually a different photographer now. But he didn't say a word.
Yeah.
I found out when I saw it. And I've been telling him, we need to get it listed, we need to get it listed, we need to get it listed.
Wow. Same thing happened to me, just so you know.
Yeah.
So bitter, makes you very bitter.
It does, but the thing to think about then is, what could I have done differently, right? And so, Alina, for you, my thought was, maybe instead of saying, hey, we got to get that listed, maybe we could have asked him a
contract under his nose and made him sign it.
Well,
2
yes,
months ago.
you should have. You should have.
That's exactly right.
And done it with a quick. Is there any reason we're not going to go ahead and take care of this right now? Right? But yeah, whenever that happens, easy, man, it just
Sometimes
kills
you
you.
have no control. I mean, I just
You
lost
don't.
one. I've been working with another for sale by owner, and Ben Daniels walks the neighborhood with his dog every day.
Jeez.
Yep.
And
There you
he
go.
got it.
Yep.
The dog
And
got
sometimes
it.
yep, and
The pets always win.
yep. Sometimes that happens. And that's, again, the point going back to day 1 when we were talking about a lot of different things, why we've talked about your calendar. Do you have control over your results? Nope. You don't. You have control over 2 things, your attitude and your activity. That's it. Do you have influence over your results? Absolutely. But you don't have control. You deal with people, and people are people. Sometimes. But the question is, what could I have done? What do I have in place to prevent that from happening? right?
I think the time is of the essence. We're like that with the contact, but not always with a lead.
No, you're not, and why not?
Well, it'll be okay next week, you know?
I would argue that the reason we don't show up with that same enthusiasm and passion is because we're scared that we're going to come across as pushy or salesy. Am I right? And the fact of the matter is, the point of sales is to serve someone to make a decision, period. The decision might not be you, it might be somebody else, but if you have helped them come to a decision, you have served them well. And if we can go into that conversation with the same enthusiasm and passion that we have with closing, and that same confidence in knowing I am serving you by helping you make a decision, things would change dramatically. Because the fact of the matter is, like with this guy, you know what, do I want to go talk to his team? Yeah, but you know what? Yes, no, whatever. I don't really want to go to Minneapolis in October, but looks like I'm going in October. But the fact is, I approached it from, I just want him to decide. And it's absolutely fine if he didn't want to have me in. It's not a problem. But my goal is to help him to decide. Because had not, he would have heard 4 or 5 more voicemails from me. I would have spent the time, and he would have been having to deal with those 4 or 5 more voicemails. All because I didn't really push him to make a decision. Right? People need help making decisions, and the decisions you help people make are not small decisions. They're huge decisions. They need that help. They expect you to be the bus driver here, right? And it's not like we're telling anybody what to do, but they need some help. Even if that decision is no, this is not the right time. Wouldn't you want to know that? Yeah. Okay, so we still have, I knew we'd have a little bit of extra time because I really want you guys to focus on really starting to implement, putting in these things into place. Anybody have questions? Anybody want to talk through one of their systems?
I was just saying on your post-closing, like one was saying that people hate the keys, they want to get out of here, okay? So when, you might take 3 or 4 months to call them back and say, hey, since you left, or since you sold, 5 more people on your street started selling too, so I guess they must have liked you.
Elaine, count on Elaine to everybody make people laugh, right? Oh my gosh, that's great.
But that's one thing that I started doing was getting all the people that I closed with before to make sure they're still on my SOI list.
Yes.
And if they
Yes.
it turns out they don't want to talk to you anymore, then yes.
They'll
let it go.
tell you.
Sure.
They'll tell you. I mean, we act so timid. We really do. And there's no reason to be timid.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we give people permission to say, I don't like you, or I don't want to deal with you. I don't care. You're not going to be the first person or probably the last person.
Right.
One less person to worry about.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And I'm okay with that. But it clears things up for them and for me. Right?
So let me ask you, like this post-closing, let's say I want to set somebody up on a 12-month
Yes.
post-closing campaign.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, is it calling them, or can it just be an email? Or?
It can be whatever you want. So start at the beginning. What do you want them to experience?
Right.
What's your brand?
Just probably, okay.
Right? What's your brand? What do you want them to experience? And so think about that. Your post-closing might be completely different because whether you guys know it or not, each of you have kind of a niche of client that you typically serve. There is a similarity between a lot of your clients. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
I know.
Right? And so think about it, because your post-closing, based on your brand and based on those clients, is going to look different than somebody else's.
Like Wanda's very relationship oriented, so she'll probably have notes in there, what kind of dog they have, what their daughter's doing tomorrow, what kind of drinks they're gonna
I
have.
gotta put their kids' names in there, cause I can't remember
Right.
shit.
Yeah, so like if you have a new drink that came out, Wanda, that has vodka in it, and you know they like vodka,
Oh, yeah,
then
no,
send them that
absolutely.
recipe in an email, you know, say, hey, I found out something new,
Mhm.
and just was thinking of you.
It can be really, they didn't hire Caldwell Banker. I know this is on video. They hired you. They worked with you.
Right.
They developed a relationship with you.
Right.
Okay? You know, thinking about that, like if you're very relationship oriented, right? And think about this. This speaks to going back to the original, what do you want them to experience? Sometimes I don't send people birthday, like I'll say happy birthday, but I don't send them like a card or anything. But if I have their child's birthday or information, I'll send them like a $10 ice cream thing for their child, right? I mean, this is the kind of thing, if you're relationship oriented and you have that information, if what you want them to experience, but think about it,
No, I
if
know,
that was
I
something
know.
you wanted to, if that was a
Right.
proof point
Right.
for your brand, then you know whenever they bring up their kid, oh, what's their name? So are they, you know, how old are they, right? Would you mind, I love getting their birthdays in here, would you mind, like, they're not gonna think anything about it.
Right.
And then they're gonna be, oh my God, I forgot she knew their birth, like, they might not even remember they told you the birthday.
Right.
But what an awesome proof point if that fit your branding. For other people, that would be weird, right? It would be creepy. It would be really creepy. Like if you're dealing with,
I'm gonna send you an ice cream jar.
yeah. But if you're dealing with investors, right, and you're doing a lot of second homes or you're doing a lot of whatever, like investment properties, people that are gonna, you're not gonna do that. That's not your thing. But it would be something different. But knowing it up front, knowing what your system is, allows you to do those things to get it prepared, right? Yeah.
But I do get a Christmas card from a realtor that I used a long time ago, and a birthday card still.
Wow.
My husband does too.
How many years ago was that?
12. And I'm not moving back there anytime soon.
No, but you know what's interesting is if you found out, if somebody said, I need a realtor in wherever,
Right, Texas.
okay, you would go, oh, I got a great one, wouldn't you?
Right.
And someday that might happen, and that realtor, because they've sent 12, 24, whatever, cards to you, might get a referral fee or might get a deal, and you get, I mean, you just never know. You just never know what's going to happen. We just have to decide, how do we show up? What do we want people to experience dealing with us? And let's prove it in our systems. Okay? For you, if you're relationship based and you're not doing follow-up, and if it doesn't include phone calls, I would question.
Well, I call, I mean, I even.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Then maybe you don't even need the email. Maybe it's just a call. But you see, that's got to be, it's got to match. Right?
But I would love to have a campaign set up like that for post-closing, that
Yeah.
went out to those
Yeah.
groups every month, you know?
Mhm.
So maybe some of us need to get together and figure out how to set that up.
There could be a group of you that did that. There could be a group of you, so I'm going to throw out a suggestion. If you wanted to do it on a monthly basis, then maybe a group of 12 of you or whatever, and everybody decide 1 month that they're responsible for creating just an email of some kind with some kind of content in it. And everybody collectively puts it together. Who knows, right? That would be a real quick and easy way to end up with a 12-month campaign that you didn't have to do a lot of work for, right? And maybe if yours is to send it every other month, you only send 6 of them. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. But you get the point, right? All right, questions, comments. Wheels are turning. I can see them.
When you were talking about a branding exercise,
Mhm.
was that this past call?
No, it was before when we talked about going to at least 3 people, if not 5 people that you have worked with and asking them 3 words to describe working with you. Because what's going to happen, Alina, is you're going to end up with 2 or 3 words or phrases that are really consistent among all of those words. And that really is the brand that you have now. That is really how people are seeing and experiencing working with you. And the cool thing about it is that's what it is today, and if you don't like it, you can change it. But oftentimes people are like, oh my gosh, yes, I like that. I want to go with it. And it just serves as a sort of a jumping off point for you to really make that stronger. If you.
It's funny to see the looks on their faces when you actually ask them that. Like, I need 3
Yeah.
words that best describe me.
Yeah.
You know, and they look at you like,
You know
what?
what, you know what one
And
of
then it's
mine,
almost like a panic, like, is this a trick?
I know.
you know
Well,
what one of mine said? Works for client, that's his 3 words.
Works for like nice. One of mine was brutally honest. I'm not sure if that's good or not.
I think it is good. I think it is good. And
Can we drop the brutally? Can you-
yeah, well, you can. But think about how that drives. But think about how that drives your communication with them.
Right.
Think about in every one of these steps, there is something that you can provide as a proof point that you aren't going to sugarcoat anything. Think about it.
Sugar in my life.
No, there is something in every single step here,
That's funny.
right? I love that. I love that. Okay. Thought it might have been me. I was like, that shouldn't be happening. Anybody else? Questions?
So Angie, you talked to me on the phone since nobody's having questions, about calling people, like a lot of my sphere is not from here. So I think it's a great example of what you gave me. Do you remember? And if you do, I think you should share that with everybody.
And I have shared it with a few people. A lot of people are struggling because their sphere of influence includes a lot of people that are not in town. Is anybody having that struggle? Okay. I might have shared it with some of you, but maybe not with all of you. So a lot of times we hesitate to call them because, like, how am I going to get a referral if they live in Texas, right? So the concept is call them up and say, you know, I am just doing some work here, working on my real estate business down here, and I just, you know what, I guess I was thinking about you and wondered, have you ever been to the Keys? Or when's the last time you came to the Keys, right? Finding out when they'd been here or when the last time was. And then just talking to them about their experience. So I'm curious, so when you stay, do you have like, I didn't know you've been here every year, or you did that for 10 years. That's crazy. Where did you stay? Or what was your favorite part? What did you do? Right? Finding out from them what was meaningful about their trip. And they might give you a restaurant, they might give you a B&B, they might give you, who knows what they're going to give you. Might be a particular captain. But that allows you to go to that person, to go to that captain, to go to that B&B, to go to that restaurant and say, you know what, I wanted to come and share some information with you. I'm sure you get all the complaints, but I just wanted to come and share. I was talking to my Aunt Barbara or whatever about her trips down here, and she told me the highlight of her trip consistently was coming into your restaurant. And it just meant the world to her, and I just wanted you to know that, right? So for me, the reason, you know why I thought about that? What's my goal? How do I want people to feel when I call a referral? What's my goal?
You want to smile?
Yeah. So for me, I thought of that because my goal is to make somebody smile. Do you think if I go into somebody who owns a restaurant and tell them that I will make them smile? Yes. Check. It worked, right? And then I'm going to say, you know, I am from, and you tell them where you're from, and say, you know, I'm sure you probably already have a real estate resource for yourself. But I wanted to share that information, and if you don't, or if there's ever anything I can do for you from a real estate perspective, I'd love for you to let me know. And you know what happens 99 times out of 100? They'll start telling you all about themselves. Yeah, I have so-and-so that I work with, or yeah, I just bought my house, or yeah. All of a sudden, you've got a lot of information, don't you? And it just serves as a jumping off point, right? Yeah, they might not want you to stay in touch, but more often than not, they're going to appreciate it. And then you've added somebody to your sphere of influence you can reach out to, right?
You have a new referral.
You have a new referral. Is that helpful? Just a different perspective. But again, part of the reason that I thought about that was because my goal, I know what my goal is when I call referrals. Right? That's why I thought of it. So just be clear what it is for you, what experience you want people to have. Okay, any other questions? I know we've got 10 minutes, but we can finish early if nobody has any questions. But the homework, I really want, if you're not calling your Hot 100, if you haven't finished your Hot 100, you need to be doing that. We've gotten almost $4 million of volume added potentially to Caldwell Banker over the past, since June, right? What are we, in 60 days, that we would not have had if people weren't doing this activity. And not everybody's doing the activity. So if you're not doing that, I want you to do it, okay? I want you to stay on top of your calendars, and I want you to start putting in systems. And again, don't take all of them if you don't have any, don't start with all of them. Get one and finish it, okay? So I'm going to be asking you about your systems, and for those of you who haven't been dialing, I'm going to be asking you about your dials on the call, okay? Questions? All right. Well, you guys have a fantastic 2 weeks. I will see you back here in 2 weeks. I think it's the 9th, right? August 9th? Okay. All right.
Look at my calendar.
I love it. I love it. If anybody needs Nikki's information, if you are having any technology issues, Wanda will tell you,
That was
Nikki.
great. Honestly, within a couple of minutes, she helped me.
Yeah. She's fantastic.
And she was somewhere else
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah, she's virtual for me, but she's phenomenal. Yeah. She is in Florida, by the way. But she's.
Thank you.
You are very welcome, guys.